I shall start off by adding salt to the wound.
Go ahead.
Considering the kerfuffle that we are in right now, let me clarify, I'm a real architect with a real certificate. And Daryl, sorry to break the very, very bad news for you. That's another episode to your sad, sad story. After you graduate from NUS, all our government-linked companies are going to hire a very lowly ranked university of fake degrees. Okay, Singaporeans, the danger of one-party rule is how, because we've got one-party rule, everything is predictable, it is very, very easy for anyone with ill intention to game the system. Notoriety extraordinaire Yin Yang came to Singapore. He could read the system like an open book, and at the back of an eyelid, he knew what to do to game the system. Fake a career, fake a qualification, join the grassroots. He doesn't even need to switch on his brain to figure out which political party to saka. Getting fake credentials has become the cornerstone to achieve and attain the Singapore dream. Fake credentials ensure dishonest foreigners get good positions like directors, senior managers, project managers, head of department, to ensure that they can bull their way through, just tongue twist and do your prata flip. And they make sure the real, true Singaporean talent are stuck in the middle, sandwiched to do the real work. That's the reality that PAP created. So they've already set out on this journey to scam the whole system, right? So, bopiana, you have to assign your jobs, everything around you must be your kakia, your family, people from your village, your girlfriends. So nobody snitch on you, right? I've heard, for myself, third world nationals telling me, Fatimah, multinationals doesn't belong to anybody. So that means they have no qualms, feel a high level of comfort to colonize a workplace or any multinationals they want to colonize. And it is very, very often and very, very common that you go to a multinational or a bank and you see a very homogeneous workforce consisting of a single nationality, of a single race. And it's not us, huh? Yeah. Wow, we thought when TAFEP went out with the advertisements, they want to have a crackdown and they want to check and investigate the complaints about discrimination about Singaporeans. I myself carry on thinking of, hoping, oh, this is a false sense of security. Oh, somebody's doing something about it. Just recently, when Tan Juan Jin is about to leave MOM, TAFEP and MOM, after Tan Juan Jin's last speech, outgoing speech, all spoke in a well-orchestrated event, one after another, singing the same tune. Just like what Mary says, all singing the same tune. Oh, it must be your perception lah, your fault lah, Singaporeans. You must be imagining that there's discrimination against you. You must be going crazy, It's not real, it's not real. So how do they come to this conclusion? Right? Did they show us data? Did they tell us whom they interview in order to come to that conclusion? No, right? So most probably all these clowns, armed with our complaints, go down to the employers and ask the employers, hey, you discriminate against Singaporeans or not? The employers, of course, says, no, what? Your Singaporeans got no skill, what? Make sense to you, not? How can you hear? You can hear what they have to say, but you need to have independent investigations because the person that you're hearing is actually the party that you're investigating. How can that be valid in the first place? So when TAFED comes knocking on their doors, all of them are sure to be very, very comfortable. Just give the flaky excuse. Your Singaporeans don't want to relocate, your Singaporeans are not skilled. We produce graduates from one of the top universities in the world. And are you telling me we don't have talent around here? But no, TAFED and TCJ keep on saying, you know, yeah, they must be right, they must be right. So in this conundrum, who is exactly the oversight to ensure that abuses don't occur? MOM under TCJ is one. The only whistleblower hotline is TAFED, is the other. But both turn out to be working on a system of perceptions. Whatever they say must be right lah. So, from my perception, since everybody else like this word so much, TCJ is already leaving MOM, right? He must tell the world that he's already tied all loose ends. But in doing so, the white elephant in the room, you sweep under the carpet lah. Yeah, give very illogical reasons, never mind. Nobody to challenge you what. The fact remains, complaints regarding discrimination against Singaporeans is still half of our complaints lodged to TAFED. So half of the complaints about discrimination. So are we imagining all these complaints? So now Lim Swee Say is taking over MOM. He himself is singing the same tune. He's more direct. He says, oh, you need to upskill, you know. If you don't upskill, there's structural unemployment, you know. Yeah, it must be your fault. If you don't get employed, you are daft, you know. But right under our noses, all the fake degrees have a job. People who goes to supposedly reputable universities and you check the rating is like not even in the top 500 of the world can get a job. And then you cannot get a job. Yeah. There's nothing wrong, there's a lot of things wrong with you Singaporeans, according to all our leaders in Singapore. This is the apparent danger of one-party rule. We will go down a slippery slope into the bottomless pit of debauchery because our incompetent leadership is unchallenged. Yeah, we must challenge them. The next paragraph is about that. I am very, very sure all of you attending this field are very, very confident and very, very sure you do not want PAP anymore. My message is to reach out to the 60.1% who are still sitting at home. But I know for sure they will be reading my speech behind the comforts and safety and anonymity of their computer screen. My message is this: we no longer have a choice but to have an alternative power base. You may or you may not think the opposition is ready enough to take over government, but there will be a point in time where it's no longer acceptable. PAP is going to be so bad they can never rule the country anymore. Even if you think that in 2016 you do not want to vote for opposition, still volunteer your time, build up the opposition, prepare them and nurture their growth. This is no longer about whether I like PAP or not. This is about survival. Because you need to make sure that you and your children and your children's children have the power to sack your MP. Okay, there's another little creature. In Singapore, always very low profile one. They are also, the main reason is to take care and to be the sole guardianship of labor's welfare. And that's the labor union. Our good friends NTUC here. Actually, on the onset of independence, Lee Kuan Yew could have easily done away with labor unions, but he didn't think that was wise. He himself said, "I began my political life by representing the trade union." Those were the exact words of Lee Kuan Yew. In current times, our present NTUC, whenever they make speeches, they're still glorifying, desperately grasping straws, talking about the glorious days of Lee Kuan Yew in 1960s, where they stood up for employees and workers. Are they doing that now? Okay. Correct. They are doing nothing. However, at some point in time, he saw the development of strong labor unions in the West, and he knew that an antagonistic relationship between workers and employers cannot be fruitful. So he decided on a tripartite arrangement where you're supposed to be working collaboratively. Still working or not sleeping on the job. So in parallel, he made sure that he stamped out corruption, and he laid the foundations of our country, integrity and meritocracy. He set up a very, very good education system to ensure that everybody has a chance to compete on merits. It is to support the noble intention of upward mobility. No matter which kampong we come from, there is a chance for us to improve our lot through education. So why is our education system so rigorous, with stringent exams and so much stress? It's for credibility. This is to make sure a real doctor is a real doctor, an engineer is a real engineer, so that public safety is protected. But over time, I think the mistake was, the biggest flaw was, they have subliminally conditioned citizens to accept the idea that a weak union and minimal workers' rights is necessary for economic growth. Let us call the bluff of the myths that they have been smoking to us for all these years. Myth number one: weak labor unions are necessary for economic growth. Fact, the most innovative and creative countries have incredibly strong unions. Germany, Denmark, Japan and Korea. These countries to continue to debunk other myths. Myth number two: workers need to work very, very long hours for productivity. Fact, the most productive economy are countries that ensures live-work balance. The deal for Germans is that they clock in on time, they really, really concentrate on the work, 8 hours later they check out. No chit-chatting, no Facebook, no socializing. But their bosses don't harass them right after work. So what happens if a German worker clocks in overtime pay? For most of these countries, all overtime pay, no matter whether a professional, a doctor, or lawyer, you still get overtime pay, by the way. Yeah. Then immediately, the union will be highlighted. You know. They would know that somebody is working very late. They will start talking to your direct boss, and if they don't get a satisfactory answer, they will start to escalate it amongst the higher management and HR. And HR is a neutral party between management and employees. Not like here, HR is colluding with management. For information, the most productive country in the world is Norway with 33 hours work week. The happiest nation in the world and one of the most productive economies is Denmark with 33 hours work week. Have you ever seen our NTUC labor union members taking on such a hands-on approach in order to mitigate everyday processes in the workplace? No, right? Yeah. So I decided to experiment. So I became an NTUC member myself and see what services do I get in return for my $9 a month membership fee. Wow, a lot of parties, you know. Can get a lot of discounts, right? But when it comes to issues that matters, my work relationship, the fact that my boss is exploiting me like hell, all I can do is to write to this virtual character, to Aunt Iris. She will revert within 3 days to answer your email, no matter how long your questions are. But the end of the message is, either you talk to your management yourself or you go hire a lawyer. Okay, myth number 3. Does low salary help competitiveness? Fact, the most productive countries have the highest salaries. The reasons for Singapore's low productivity is low salaries, long working hours, and foreign workers. However, our government has always followed the mantra that salaries must follow productivity. So if productivity is low, that means workers' fault lah. Fair or not? Oh yeah, government productivity is also low, but minister salary very high. Don't know how come never apply to them. This argument that your salary has to be as low as productivity is very illogical. I'm stunned like vegetables over the masala argument. That comes to myth number 4. Is low productivity the sole fault of workers? Fact, productivity is the collective effort of employers and employees. If your boss is very stingy, don't want to invest in the machine because he got you as the machine instead, do you think productivity will go up? Yeah. To expect workers swallow low wages is unfair and exploitative. Coupled with that, government mismanagement over high cost of living. Workers are squeezed like sugarcane. Myth number 5. Strong labor unions destroy businesses. Fact, strong labor unions ensure transparency. In Denmark, to terminate an employee, a union representative has to be there at your termination interview and document the reasons why you're being dismissed and to make sure your salary is paid on time. Having this independent check and balances means companies are forced to adopt fair work practices. This in turn improves management skills. Myth number 6. There can never be a minimum wage because it's not business friendly. Do you agree with that or don't agree with that? Don't agree? Well, actually, I agree 50% after researching all over the world. Do you know that Scandinavian countries never had minimum wage? But the minimum, the lowest salary that you can get as a cleaner whatever is $20 an hour. You know. Even working at McDonald's is about $22 an hour. So how come they can achieve that? They have labor unions working at sectorial levels. In every industry, they have specialized unions for that particular industry. They will be working with the companies and collaborate with them to ensure that they have some decent profits and workers are also paid. And they fight for the concept of living wage. The key word is living wage. It's the minimum amount of money that we need to have in order to live the very basics of life. So they are also there to make sure that nobody comes in and undercut wages. So if all these foreign talents go to Denmark and start undercutting you by $100 and $200, the unions will be there and stop it. But at the same time, foreigners are not necessarily undercutting salaries. There are those who install themselves in high positions and they think they're much, much higher than us, you know? Either because their country and their culture give them such high level of self-esteem, they think they're better than us. So they got all these fancy packages, and those with the fake credentials just game the system. So out in Scandinavian countries, the unions also make sure that the same job pays the same salary, no matter where you're from. So it's equal opportunity for everybody, whether you're citizen or foreigner. Only for this 21.5 labour speech, NTUC has declared that they are going down to sectorial level. So between 1969 for the last 50 years, what have they been doing? Sleeping. Okay. So myth number 7. Myth number 7 is low fertility rates because of selfish Singaporean women who don't want to give birth. Okay. Fact, high fertility rate countries are those with excellent live-work balance. They have laws that do not allow employers to call after work hours. This is France, right? They have a law. After work hours, employers not allowed to call you at home. If you miss your lunch hour with the intention of leaving 1 hour early that day to pick up your kids from the kindergarten, no employer will begrudge you because they know a contract is a contract is a contract. If it's 44 hours per week, it is 44 hours a week. If you as an employee wants to work longer for the sake of profession, at least they don't take you for granted, you know? Here, no, all of us are reduced at economic digits and machines. Not humans anymore. So you expect machines to produce babies? Cannot, right? Doesn't make sense. So I reiterate, what has our NTUC been up to? Very good at organizing parties and issuing discount vouchers. Not very good at standing up for workers. Are they the lousiest union in the whole wide world? Actually, not so also. They're equally as lousy and most of them live in America. Very good at collecting membership fees, don't do anything for the workers. You get fired, get fired lah, you know. But they still have one advantage. If I'm not happy with this union, I go join another one. Do we have a choice? So that is also the fallacy of a one-party system. I've shown you that stringent labor laws, strong unions and good management skills does create good economic sense and well-being for the country. So what is happening in Singapore where the labor laws are lax? So it created uniquely Singapore underhanded ways that take advantage of workers and undermines the well-being of citizens and a false sense of reality. Our statutory labour protection and the Employment Act only covers a very narrow range of people. Bread and butter issues like collection of salary not paid by errant employers should cover all workers at all levels. Legal fees required to hire a lawyer outstrips the amount owed. There is a legal concept in law and it's called proportionality. The field should be leveled so workers have a fighting chance to recover what is fair and what is right. Only in uniquely Singapore where the worst and the most unfair contract conditions are not written in the employment contract itself, but carefully buried away in an employee handbook. Some of the feedback that I received regarding abusive practices are not giving medical leave if probation is extended beyond 3 months, which is not in line with the Employment Act. Onerous penalties for resigning, and some even taking automatic monthly deductions for self-recreational activities we are forced to attend after office hours. But it's not your company, your boss's company. But use your money to throw a party. Fair or not? Yeah. Okay, our Halimah Yaakob actually does put in some level of effort. In 2009, she managed to clarify the Employment Act bill, whether dismissal or termination with notice need to have to be with just cause after due inquiry. So that means in other situation, if you get fired, whether you're dismissed or you're terminated with paid notice, it still needs to be done after due inquiry and with just cause. So, do any of you know your rights for those who are not covered under Employment Act? Very blur, right? Very grey. We don't know, right? So I went digging around. So I came across a High Court case in 2011 regarding unfair dismissal. The High Court judge was unwilling to state that anyone not covered under Employment Act can be terminated without just cause. So the judge is very learned. he could see that if under EA, you need to have good reasons for firing somebody, then it only makes sense that those not covered employment act also must be terminated based on very good cause, you know. He's not willing to strike it out, but he does recognize that this test maybe should not be tested in common law. It should be the work of developing policies, and that is Parliament's work. From 2011 to now, 2015, I have not heard any MPs clarifying this matter at all. So the market thinks that you can be fired for any frivolous reason. I don't like the shape of your nose, you're fired. Nobody really knows. So my CSI abilities were not that great. I couldn't dig around and see which of the MPs in Parliament right now is part of the Employment and Labour Committee. So I'm reaching out to all netizens out there, please dig it up for me. I want to know which MPs, their names, who sits on this committee. How come this ball nobody catch it? Everybody just boch up, you know. High Court say it's Parliament's work. Parliament say, oh, I don't know lah, don't want to do. Yeah, so we need to find out now. Because if they don't do their work, they don't deserve that 15 or 16,000 salaries that they get every month. This is an issue that affects the masses. They should prioritize it. If they don't want to give us their rights, they better make it clear. Then we need to be able to question them, man on man, you know, take it on. My theory of it is that because of one party rule, everybody's just too lazy. Lazy to think even. Our government has an innate allergy to welfare state. In reality, they have nurtured the largest welfare state of all. Every time a business asks for cheap labor, government will kowtow. Companies compete on cheap labor, not on innovation or invest money to increase productivity. Our homegrown companies never really made it big on the global scale. Compare that to the 4 Asian tigers, big brands coming out of Korea and Japan. Aren't you embarrassed at the state of affairs in the 50th anniversary? Apart from depressing wages, it breeds lousy managers, business owners and management practice. PAP managed to create an environment that nurtures bad behavior. They have created a pond ecology where scum floats to the top. During our Singapore conversation, Tan Juan Jui, wow, very hero, identified, you know, Singaporeans are very scared that they'll be displaced at work. What has he done since then? Now he's already leaving. Can anybody tell me here what has he done that stopped displacement of Singaporean workers? You be cracking your brain. I was cracking my head for the last 3 days. I cannot figure out what he's done, you know. Can anybody please educate me? I cannot figure out what he's done. Well, he's so proud. He says that they've tightened inflow of workers. Tightened from 20% growth every year to 4% growth. That doesn't mean that the number is decreasing. The number is still growing year by year. Okay, let's get back to the government's favorite word right now, perception. Okay? I checked up the dictionary. Perception, according to dictionary, is apprehending by means of senses of the mind. That means no science, no data, no. Just I feel like this only, you know. Yeah. Based on feeling, touchy-feely things, they said that there's no discrimination against Singaporeans. Okay, let's revisit some issues I touched upon during my last Hong Lim Park speech and talk about perceptions. Now with evidence uncovered by dedicated netizens, I can speak more openly. In my last speech, I said diplomatically that dangerous subliminal messages that foreigners are better than us have seeped into our society. Now with TCJ and TAFEP making sweeping, groundless statements about foreigners are better skilled than us, and so they are hired and promoted, that means it's confirmed. You know, your government is telling you that foreigners are better, you are lousy. It's no longer a subliminal message. Yeah? With uncovering of hard evidence of fake certificates and lowly or no rank universities deemed to be reputable, it is clear our regime has decided to put down citizens to support foreigners and newcomers who are not up to mark. In my last speech, I stated that I worry public safety is at risk. Now we can safely confirm at least for the last 10 years, public safety has been at risk. Fake doctors, fake engineers. So if you buy that fancy condominium, don't be too happy. 20 years from now, the whole thing will crumble because the engineer don't know how to do calculations, So don't be too happy. With all this fake this and fake that, our government doesn't care. In my last speech, for the sake of diplomacy, I said the employment market in Gulf states is not favorable to Asian third world country nationals. I am now going to rephrase that in plain vanilla English. Gulf states had to deal with third world immigration as long as 50 years. They know whom they are dealing with and have been accused of creating a class-based society where third world immigrants are relegated to the bottom. So if you're Pinoy or Indian or Pakistani, you're right at the bottom. Nobody will take you or trust you or take you seriously. Nationals from third world are not trusted to the point where they won't even be allowed to hold middle management positions and paid extremely, extremely low. A Singaporean going out there will be earning a salary 2 to 3 times of what these people are being paid. Since they are not trusted, they will need to be supervised by first world workers. They are treated badly because of the innate belief that that is the only way to manage them, otherwise they will walk all over you. Thanks to our government, the very same people with no credibility lords over us right now, sanctioned and protected by an incompetent government. Our government is a foreigner worshipping government. Our government also have perception. The perception that foreigners create jobs for us. They are so good. We must go and saka them. But the reality is starkly different. The most spectacular Singapore failures are helmed by foreigners. MRT failed at the helm of Saw Pai Hua. She came from Malaysia originally. In my last speech, I identified Standard Chartered being colonized by a single obvious nationality. Temasek is the largest shareholder in Standard Chartered in 2006, amidst hype of an ascending India. According to Financial Times this year, this Standard Chartered is the worst holding on Temasek's plate currently. If foreigners are so fabulous, should we not expect nothing other than exceptional performance from them? Do you know what's worse than being xenophobic? It's being xenophilic. No rational reason about worshipping foreigners. And that is our PAP government. Our citizens have to endure the day-to-day reality, whereas our ministers live in a bubble-wrap existence, not touched by the reality of having a single foreigner amongst them, because the ministries are the only place where foreigners or PRs cannot be employed. So they have no experience. Unsavory foreigners are incentivized to cheat and collude as a good job position boosts the chances of PR and citizenship. There is a bigger economic issue here, access to subsidized housing. Our failed labor policies have allowed unsavory foreigners to walk all over us, cheat and lie into good positions, replace Singaporeans and strut around like peacocks. It is not only the foreigners doing this. They may hold our PR citizenship, but they are loyal to the countrymen of origin. Lee Kuan Yew concluded as early as 1960s that he inherited a nation of immigrants. Each group at that point in time in 1960s are more loyal to the countries that we belong to. But it took us 50 years to form a common identity. We know we are different. We know we're together. We know we are one despite our race and religion. And yet, through their bad policies, the vile scenes and scenarios in the early 1960s where groups are being divided by race, religion are upon us again. That is Lee Hsien Loong's legacy. I often hear horrific stories in private condominiums where as soon as there's a sizable Indian national community, they will try to squander long accumulated reserves to serve their own communities, get some projects going, then give to their fellow countrymen. Taking advantage whenever they can is a trade. During the hyperinflation rental market in Dubai, they would lease one whole building of rental apartments from an Emirati and sublease each apartment to foreigners. So when the rental market increase, okay, we have to pay rent 1 year in advance. So still when the contract is enforced, they will ask for more money. If you don't want to pay them more money, they kick you on the streets, and don't refund you back the money. So the Sheikh himself has to step in, set up a rental court, and then make sure that they know that they cannot mess around, and only then when they get scared, they don't mess around. Remember our Zainuddin Nordin, our illustrious MP. First and foremost, he's not exactly the brightest crayon in the box. He's so against democracy, he ever made an offensive remark linking democracy to a gang rape. I think the scenario that he painted is actually quite relevant today. We are giving the vote to people who do not share our values of integrity, honesty, and meritocracy. If their numbers increase, our whole country goes down the drain through democracy. Are we the only country facing the problems of cheats through global immigration? No, not true. US government has recently concluded a 34 million settlement with Infosys for gaming the visa and immigration system. Do you know who Infosys is? They are the first IT outsourcing company. And then they send Indian nationals down to the US. Testimonies received and evidence presented that the Indians that took away from Americans are hardly specialists and do not even have good training. The biggest irony is, even Infosys in a separate report expressed that they do not have any trust in any Indian graduates that comes to their office to look for work. They are thinking of setting up their own universities to train future employees. Our national asset is integrity and meritocracy. These two assets are being squandered by the day. We have a PM which has an acronym sounding some kind of cholesterol. HDL is a good cholesterol, you know, right? Yeah. LDL is the bad cholesterol. And then we have LHL. LHL is a cholesterol that clogs our nation arteries by nurturing corruption, replacing citizens with charlatans and carpetbaggers. I would like to remind LHS of his father's words. Self-respect is what our trade unions have and will give to our workers. That protection for a man's right to his own dignity, his dignity as a human being and as a citizen. He may be an unskilled worker, but he is one of us. That's the opening address at NTUC Delegate Seminar in 1969. LHLs, we have caused distress by making a mockery of your father's legacy. Every time I wake up in the morning, my intelligence is insulted. It is us, the citizens, that qualify to seek protection from Penal Code Harassment Act 21(4).
Thank you very much, Fatimah. Wow, that was fantastic. And I really especially liked her example of Sweden, where they have minimum wages, but they don't call it minimum wages. I just learned it today from Fatimah. They call it living wages. What an appropriate title that is. Wages that give you a decent living, right? Yeah. Do we have it in Singapore? No.